Hey everybody, welcome back to my shop. Today we're going to be building these sliding barn doors. These are my new shop doors. This should keep the dust down from this side of the basement where the kids have all their toys and workout equipment and everything jumbled up. When I sand and route and things like that, it should hit this door. I've tested it already and fall to the floor. So come inside the shop and let's get started.
The first thing I'll do is install the box rails and the trolleys to get an accurate measurement of how high I need the door and how wide both doors need to be to cover this opening. Now, barn doors, they don't seal up against the wall like a regular door, so I chose not to put an exterior header also. I'm screwing right into the studs. I didn't want to bring the doors further out than they had to be. Once I got the accurate measurements for the doors, it's time to start milling up some lumber. I'm using standard 2x6s and 2x4s to complete this project. Not only is it saving me money on the build, but it's also easy to work with pine. You just got to make sure you dig through the pile, get some nice clear pieces of lumber, and make sure they're flat, don't have too much twist, so this way you don't have too much material removed when you mill them up. Now, if you've been around for a while with me, you'll know that this is not my normal jointer planer machine. I sold both of those and opted to get a jointer planer combo. So now I can joint the face of a 12-inch board and also plain 12-inch boards all on the same machine, saving me time and space in the shop. I will be doing a review on this tool in a few months from now when I've used it a lot more. But I can tell you so far I do like it. Alright, so now within about 35 to 40 seconds, we change over into planer mode and we're going to pass the board through and start to bring them down parallel to the other face. And now quick switch back into jointer mode, and I'm going to joint an edge of each of the boards. Now, my experience with pine, if I rip it through the table saw to width at this point, it just gives me complete unparalleled edges from the stress in the wood. So what I've chosen to do is pass it through the planer and make everything parallel there with removing the minimal amount of material. Now over at the miter saw, I'll just cut all the parts to equal lengths that I need to make up the door frame.
Okay, so I have the barn door laid out on my table, and as you can see, my table's not long enough, so I'm going to be moving it down onto my table saw, so this way I can get more room to do the joinery. I'm going to be using a 10 by 50 bit in the domino, because that's the largest domino that this will mortise out. So I'm going to be using 3 of the 10 by 50s in each of the joints, and to get the most accuracy for the middle, I don't want this center, I want it to be a smaller panel here and a larger panel on the top. This is the bottom of the door. So what I'm going to do to get that accuracy is a story stick. And basically, I cut this to 32.5 because I wanted to center this at 40, and this is 5 inches. Each one of the rails and the stiles are all 5 inches. So what I did was I marked the center, which is 2.5, and marked this out at 40, and that leaves me here at 32.5 underneath. And now what I can do is use this after I join the bottom and clamp it together. I can use this in the middle here, and I know that both sides, after I cut the dominoes there, and then I'll slide it over here, I'll butt it up against there, and it'll be completely equal on both sides.
Now to cut the dominoes, these bench door holes are really coming in handy. I'm using clamps that fit through the holes, and it's holding it down in place, so this way I don't have to worry about the piece moving while I plunge in to make the mortise.
Okay, so I have all the mortises cut, and now I'm going to dry fit everything together. So now that I have the frame of the door completely clamped up, I'm going to check square to make sure that all my parts are cut correctly, and then we're going to start to cut a rabbet in here with a 1/2 inch router bit, because then what I'm going to do is take it all apart again, and then we're going to cut the slats to fit in there. 98 and 11/16. 98, 11/16. Okay, so we're square. So basically, as soon as I cut the pieces for the panels, I know we're in good shape, and we can start to glue it up after that. But what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to run the router along my edges here, just to see if I have any hang-ups, and there's just a little bit of unevenness here. You can see, so I got to come into this corner a little slow, lift it just a little bit as I get in there. Come around to this side. This is just a test run. I'm also seeing if I clear all my clamps. It's very important. You don't want to get hung up on a clamp in the middle of routing, and then you got to stop and readjust the clamps, because then you can screw something up. So I'm going to come into this corner. This corner is nice and smooth. Come along over here. So far I'm clearing all the clamps. No hang up there. No hang up here. This Douglas fir has a tendency, and most pine has a tendency to tear out with router bits. I'm going to do a slow climb cut, which is counterclockwise, and I'm not going to route in the full depth. Then I'm going to come around and do the full depth clockwise after I've taken off some of that material on the climb cut. You got to go into this really slow, just taking off that very little initial bit.
Once you've completed that climb cut, now you can plunge to the full depth and make your rabbet in the clockwise motion that the router is meant to go, and you won't get any tear out.
Okay, so now that I had the dry fit and I got the measurements for the inside, I routed the groove. The router leaves me with rounded corners on each side of the stiles of rails, and I need to fit the panels in there, and I don't want to round over the corner. So what I'm going to do is disassemble it, and then I'm going to use a hammer and chisel to straighten out that cut in the corners.
Now it's back over to the joiner, and I'm going to start milling up the 2x4s for the slats for the center panels of the door. Milling them up now and surfacing them on 4 sides will make it easier for me to resaw them later. Now to save time, I'm going to be using my table saw to resaw these boards in half, and I'm using a feather board to keep them against the fence, and I have the blade raised to just about a little more than half the way through the material, and I'm going to flip it end for end, and then I'm going to make the second cut, and that'll resaw it in half. And now I've done a dry fit off camera to save some time, and so now I'll go ahead with the glue up because everything fit perfect.
Okay, so now that I have the door out of the clamps, what you can see here is that I milled up some boards to the thickness here, what's left over from the recessed inside panel here, and that's a 1/2 inch. So now I want to do the cross bracing here, this diagonal bracing, not only for looks, but at the same time, the 1/2 inch boards in the middle, they have a little bit of flex to them because they're so long and there's nothing keeping them stable. So these diagonal braces should keep the door not only from sagging, but it's also going to give the middle panels some stability, and they're going to be nailed together here so they're not going to move. Now these are free floating, there's no glue in here. I could have glued up the panel and allowed for a little expansion contraction, but there's no need for it. So once I get these angles cut, and you can see what I want to do is I want to cut them out so they're going to fit into the corner at a point, not just, you know, a line there, you know, a 45 there. I want to make it hit both corners there. That's going to keep everything square and stable also. So the way I'm going to achieve that is first get the center of the board. So 1 5/8 is my center. Perfect, 1 5/8. Now what I'm going to do is move this down here, and I'm going to line this point up with the center of the 90-degree angle right there. So I'm just going to make a tick mark right at the angle there, so I know exactly where it is, so I can cover it up. I want to make sure that I have overhang on both sides. And I'm going to connect those lines there and right there. Yeah, this is right off the bandsaw, so I'm just going to do a little test fit here. And good on that side. We are a little heavy on the end right here, so what I'm going to do to get a perfect fit is just continue to use a block plane and just shave it a little bit. I'm also going to back bevel. I'm not going to take too much at one time. Just a couple of passes. Continue to fit. Okay, a couple more passes and we're in. You don't want to overdo it, so if you have to keep the dry fitting process going. Okay. Oh, that's a nice snug fit. That's what we want. Nice, beautiful fit right there. Everything's flush. And the door is going to be ready for some sanding. We're not going to sand it too much because I want that rough texture a little bit, because barn doors they're not perfect. Okay, so now that I have the diagonal braces fitted, what I'm going to do is just put a bead of glue on the back, right down the middle. Not too much, I don't want a lot of squeeze out, and then I'm going to tack them in with some 3/4 inch pins, and that's going to hold them to the other boards until the glue sets up.
Now before I start the finishing process, I'm routing a groove on the bottom, and this is going to accept the bottom guide, and that's going to make the doors not sway back and forth as it rides on the tracks. Now for the staining process, I'm using a weathered wood accelerator. Varathane makes it. It's a chemical reaction, and what it does is makes the wood age within a few hours and make it look like it's barn wood that's been sitting out for 40 years in the rain, snow, and all the elements.
Okay guys, well this is 2 coats of the weathered wood accelerator. I did 1 coat and I came back 2 hours later and it wasn't the desired dark, rich, weathered look that I was looking for. So I went with a 2nd coat and now it's got a lot more gray and it looks real beat up and old, and that's exactly the color that I was going for. That's the tone that we wanted. So now I'm going to hit it with a Enduro Var, which is a varnish, and even though it's a water-based varnish, it has the qualities of an oil-based varnish, and what it's going to do is give it that rich, dark, deep oil look. So I'm going to spray 3 coats of that now.
Now that the finish is dry, I can install the hardware.
So now what I need to do is keep them from swaying back and forth and banging into the wall. So I'm going to use these. You remember when I cut the groove in the bottom with the router bit? I used a rabbiting bit And now that left room for this. This is gonna get screwed into the floor. I'm gonna set it at the corner of the wall of the door opening, and the door's gonna ride, that groove is gonna ride on this just like a track, and that's gonna keep it exactly where it needs to be. These will get screwed in right to the floor. Okay guys, this was a really fun project. It's a bit awkward and the doors are a little heavy, so it is, a little bit of a challenge to build by yourself, but it is really rewarding in the end. It's exactly what we wanted in here. I installed some brushed nickel handles on that to keep in theme with the brushed nickel box rails and trolleys, and I installed those stops on the end. It's just a nut and a bolt with some washers on the end so that it can't slide off in case the kids decide they're gonna slide it as hard as they can. It will hit that bolt and it will stop. It won't fall off the track. So that's a little safety feature right there. And on the bottom, we have those little brackets, those L brackets that I installed to the floor that keeps the doors from swaying back and forth. They still move freely, and they're actually hidden because I installed them all the way against the wall. So unless you pull the door all the way out like this, you're not going to see them. So most of the time, I'm not even going to be opening both doors at the same time unless I'm carrying out some big piece of furniture that I made. And most of the time, that's through the garage anyway. So that's it, guys, for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Come back next time for a ton more videos. We got a lot of shop projects to do. We got some on-site stuff we're going to do. Hit the like button if you like the video, if you like the doors the way they came out, and also hit that picture of a notification bell. That will notify you every time I upload a video. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time in the shop.